Welcome to GeeK KetchUp. I am Kyle Eckert alongside Chris Heck. We're two lifelong friends with a passion for all things geek. Whether it's gaming, movies, television, wrestling, comics, whatever. If it's nerdy, there's a good chance we're into it. You are listening to another wrestling recap, part of our Spotlight series. And this time we're talking WWE Survivor Series 2019.
So the last few days made up a big weekend for the WWE as they held NXT War Games on Saturday, November 23rd, and their annual Survivor Series pay-per-view on Sunday, November 24th. These events showcased a two-night culmination of weeks worth of storytelling that the company has been giving fans across Raw, SmackDown, and the NXT brands. After the launch of AEW and the surprise invasion of Raw and SmackDown by the NXT roster, the stakes had not felt this high for WWE in many years. Their top talent and brands were undergoing a full assault, and most of the payoffs did not disappoint. So let's not wait any longer, Kyle. Let's jump right into our recap of the Survivor Series event by starting off with a quick rundown of the outcomes of NXT War Games.
You got it. The third NXT TakeOver War Games from Chicago was the first of many things. It was the first NXT TakeOver to feature two War Game matches on the card. One, of course, was the first ever women's War Game match. It was also the first NXT TakeOver to not feature a title match of any kind, which was pretty cool. But on the pre-show, we saw Angel Garza defeat Isaiah Swerve Scott with the classic wing clipper. Then moving on to the main card, in the first ever women's War Games match, Team Rhea Ripley beat Team Shayna Baszler, with Ripley getting the pin on Baszler despite her team being shorthanded after the Dakota Kai heel turn.
That was a great match, had tons of story, tons of action. Glad to see first in history. Just keep checking those things off the box for the awesome women of wrestling right now. Couldn't have had a better match for me on that one.
No, I agree. And the NXT women's division deserved the recognition there.
Absolutely.
Next up, it was Pete Dunne defeating Killian Dane and Damian Priest to earn an NXT title shot the very next night against Adam Cole at Survivor Series.
For me, that was the match of the night on the card. As great as the War Games matches were, there's just a different feel to a more classic match, especially one that has a title shot on the line. And none of those guys disappointed. Pete Dunne, time and again, great wrestler. Killian Dane has really come into his own. And I'm really interested to see more out of Damian Priest.
Yeah, the Archer of Infamy. Not a bad gimmick, but I do like the bruiserweight Pete Dunne. He's just got to get a better set of trunks. It's not flattering.
It's true.
Moving on, Finn Balor beat Matt Riddle with his patented 1916.
You know, there was a second there where I really thought Matt Riddle was going to get that victory, even though I just felt like Finn, for all obvious reasons, had to win it. And ultimately, he didn't disappoint. He pulled it out. But they got me there for a second.
That's good storytelling when they can trick you.
Yep.
Lastly, it was the men's War Game matchup. Team Tommaso Ciampa defeating the Undisputed Era, with Ciampa driving Cole through two tables off the top of the cage and then getting the pin.
Oh, my God. Absolutely bump of the night, no doubt. It looked like it was just vicious. I don't know how Adam Cole got up the next day. I don't know how he got up that night. He looked like he was...
wrestled the next day.
And wrestled, yeah. It was probably, 20 feet through two tables?
20 feet off the top of the cage on two tables.
Yeah.
It's surprised he's not dead. I'm surprised he's not.
It might not have been the absolute biggest bump I've ever seen, but for those guys, especially Ciampa coming off of the neck surgery and the big injury from, a couple months ago, to see him go and do something like that, was pretty serious.
No, it was pretty, it was definitely, that's the first thing I thought of when they took the bump. I was like, man, I don't know if Tommaso's neck can take that. Yeah. It was brutal. Interesting little shout out. They showed a brief clip of Britt Baker in the crowd because Britt Baker and Adam Cole are dating.
Right.
And they showed Britt Baker on the telecast, and I'm like, they definitely just showed an AEW contracted wrestler
little
in
free
the
advertising there. I saw the headlines. I think my wife sent it to me, and they were trying to give this whole like, oh, inclination that an AEW star was coming to NXT or something because of that was just the way the headline read.
yeah.
But obviously once I opened it, I was like, oh yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's Britt
It's
Baker.
common knowledge that they've been dating. So I kind of went back and forth, but ultimately I think it was kind of cool that they acknowledged it and didn't act like AEW doesn't exist.
Right, yeah. And they're humans and date like
Right.
humans date, have,
Yeah.
relations with one another, so
It's the
that's a normal
reality
thing.
era.
Yeah,
You can't get past some of that stuff anymore.
peel the curtain back a little bit.
Yeah, so it was a great NXT event, but ultimately we were here to see the big show for Survivor Series. They kicked it off a little bit earlier in the pre-show with 3 matches. The first one, though, I think everybody missed because nobody knew it was happening.
Nobody knew it
Um,
was coming.
but it was the tag team battle royal. We had Dolph Ziggler and Glorious Bobby Roode defeating the OC, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, the Street Profits, Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins of Raw, the Revival, Heavy Machinery, the Lucha House Party from SmackDown, Breezango showed up, the
Breezango!
Forgotten Sons, and Imperium's Marcel Barthel. Nobody really knows who he is unless you're watching NXT UK. But he was in this match on the pre-show. Um, any
Yeah.
thoughts there? Did you get to catch it?
No, I did not get to catch it. I missed War Games on Saturday night, so I took the opportunity when I sat down for Survivor Series that instead of watching the 2-hour pre-show, I took the time to watch the 2-hour War Games pay-per-view.
Much better spent.
I think so. I think so. But next up on that pre-show was the Cruiserweight Championship. Lio Rush going up against Akira Tozawa. Sorry, Akira. Messed up your name there. And Kalisto.
Yeah, I didn't get to catch this one either because I was still wrapping up some dinner and getting the program thrown on. I really was bummed out because I love cruiserweights, so it's definitely no knock on the cruiserweights or that match. I have to say, Akira Tozawa is a proven commodity, and so is Kalisto. But Lio Rush, I was glad to see him retain, just because I think he's really coming into his own, and I'm excited to see more from him. I need them a little bit more on the front and center so I can check him out and give him a real eyeball test.
No, I like him. He's a Baltimore guy, so he's
Oh, he's a
local
Baltimore
for me.
guy.
He's a
Okay,
Baltimore
there
guy,
you
so
go.
I'm all for it. More
There you
Leo
go.
Rush.
There you go. So next up, we had what most people thought was kind of the true beginning of the pay-per-view of the night. We had a match that I thought should have been on the main card, but there's only so much time. It was a tag team triple threat, and that triple threat was definitely a common theme throughout the night with the warring brands. But we had the Viking Raiders, who are currently the Raw Tag Team Champs, versus the New Day, who are currently the SmackDown Tag Team Champs, versus the Undisputed Era with Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, who are the NXT champs. What were your thoughts on this one?
It was a great tag match all around. Undisputed Era really showed this weekend that they're the real deal. They're quality stars. And
They
they
stepped it
can
up everywhere.
Yeah, all four of them really did throughout the weekend. But for me, the highlight of the match was the ending of the match with Ivar of Viking Raiders and his back handspring elbow.
Right?
Like, to this point, the one of the only other wrestlers I've seen do that is Kalisto, and Kalisto is what, like $150.
Yeah,
So
he's a cruiserweight luchador.
it's a cruiserweight
That's
luchador.
what they do.
So to see the big man do that, to drop the elbow and then win the match, that's just the highlight. That's all I feel like we should talk about here. Like, that was incredible.
It's true. I absolutely love the Viking Raiders right now. They've just since they came on the scene, they've just been continuing to impress and we've got this wave of athletic big dudes that are coming through the WWE right now, guys, that I can't talk enough about. And I'm sure we'll touch on them a little bit more, but the Viking Raiders, Heavy Machinery are doing a ton of athletic
Yeah.
things. Keith Lee coming out of
Keith Lee.
NXT, just blowing people's
Yeah.
minds with his athleticism at over 300
Bask in
pounds.
his glory.
It's not the last time we're going to say that today. It's really just been so impressive to watch, and the Viking Raiders were kind of at the forefront, really getting that going. But I also loved how they approach these matches. That we've seen situations where there's multiple tag teams in a match, and they'll do that situation where there's only two guys in the ring, and then they can tag anybody, or they'll do some different formats like that. But with these, they went true triple threat rules, like kind of
Yeah.
traditional triple threat rules. Even though there were either multiple tag teams or later on with the traditional Survivor Series, and it really kind of upped the ante, it upped the excitement. I don't know what you thought about it, but I really liked that.
No, it creates this like tornado tag excitement where everybody's all over the place at all the time. And, it brings a high level of energy to the match, to the crowd, to the card. So I'm all for any of that. I'm a fan of tag team wrestling. And if you're going to double down and give me tornado tag team wrestling, and in this case, a tornado triple threat tag team wrestling,
Say that
then
19 times fast.
right, yeah, tornado tag team wrestling, tornado tag team wrestling. It's where it's at for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was also glad to see one of the few times that a team outside of the Undisputed Era won something on Survivor Series. But the Viking Raiders did pull off and get the pin here after hitting the Undisputed Era with the Viking experience. I do have to comment, I didn't kind of put it together until last night, but I love that they named their finishing maneuver after a bullshit name that Vince tried to give them when
Yeah.
they moved from
When they
NXT to Raw.
right, yeah.
They
I don't know if I
debuted.
love that or if I'm just annoyed by the fact that when they debuted, they were like, "Wait, they're Viking experience. Weren't they the War Raiders?" No, no, no. Now they're the Viking Raiders. Wait, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like it just made sense to do something like that. It's like to me it struck them that those guys are probably kind of cool, and they were like, look, we're gonna take this ridiculous thing that happened to us
Yeah.
and turn it into a positive. It's a good move. It's got a lot of power on it. They always like throw one onto the other guy, and their
Yeah.
opponents, they stack them up. But they did get the pin, and they closed out the pre-show. And so let's move on to the main card.
Moving on to that main card, the first match of the night was the Women's Survivor Series match. Team SmackDown versus Team Raw versus Team NXT. What'd you think here, Chris? This was a big one. This was a big one. A lot of big names in this. Too many to really name individually. But we saw team captain Sasha Banks, team captain Charlotte, team captain Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, there were 15 people in this match. It was really impressive. Outside of a battle royal situation, I was really trying to think like, when do we see matches this big? With multiple teams and five people. Um, we had some really big breakouts throughout this, and they really kicked off the main card well. I thought the teams, everybody from the NXT roster, start to finish in this show, showed up. They
Yeah.
performed. One thing I noticed expressly with the women's match in the beginning was it was not sloppy. A lot of times when they get into these kind of gimmick matches, they try to do a lot of gimmicky things with
Yeah, little
big spot,
spots.
yeah, 10-person suplexes and stuff, but and they'll almost just out of sheer volume, they're gonna mess up, where
Yeah.
there's so many people. There really wasn't any issues with this match. They executed. You had storylines kind of either being told with Charlotte and Asuka in the past. When
Yeah.
Asuka shot green mist into Charlotte's face, that was a continuation of a previous storyline. But then you had things like Rhea and Sasha going head to head towards the end that forms potential new storylines. So I
Oh,
really
yeah.
enjoyed this match. What were your thoughts?
No, I did as well. To speak of Rhea Ripley, she had one hell of a weekend.
She's the real
Given
MVP.
she's the real MVP of the weekend, that on Friday night SmackDown, she pinned Sasha Banks, and then Saturday, excuse me, no, on Friday night she pinned Charlotte Flair on SmackDown.
Charlotte, yeah.
Saturday she wins the War Games by pinning Shayna Baszler, and then Sunday she wins the Survivor Series women's match by pinning Sasha Banks.
Yep.
So she had one hell of a weekend. I really think that means they think highly of her and her future in the business and with WWE. I thought everyone stepped up and performed well. Carmella, Dana Brooke, all the side players. Special highlight goes out to the storytelling in that Team NXT went down to two wrestlers very early on in the match, with Candice LeRae and Io Shirai getting hurt and having to leave. And I thought what was cool about them getting hurt and having to leave is they were actually the very first two competitors in the War Games match the night before. So
Okay.
they spent the most time in the ring on Saturday night, which makes sense that they would be hurt with injuries and wouldn't be able to continue for Survivor Series. At least for me, I thought that was smart, subtle storytelling.
I'll give you some credit there because I did not put the two of those together. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, I knew that Io and Candice were in the War Games match from the night before, but to me, the first thing that came to mind when they got hurt in the Survivor Series match was like, really, they're gonna do this again. Like Rhea Ripley just
yeah,
had to go and overcome all the odds, and she's a monster, and we get it. But I felt like they were just overplaying the storyline a little bit. Like, okay, now she's
yeah.
against the greatest women in the whole business, arguably, and then she's gonna go down two people again, and then pull it off. I guess
That's
so.
fair. I guess I didn't think of it like that. Yeah, that she went down to the night before, and then she had to go down to Sunday night, and yeah, she's keep battling back. The stakes were a little different here because of that third team
Yeah,
of there's five more. They split it up a little more.
I mean, if you were to look at it from the standpoint of like wrestling storytelling, Rhea Ripley would need to go from here. She's already got her Mania spot. She's gonna fight Becky. Like you would think that
Yeah.
it's just like after having the weekend she did, like where do you go if you're Rhea Ripley? I mean, I'm assuming she's gonna go take the title from Shayna Baszler at some point
Baszler,
soon,
yeah.
but like they literally put her over every person on the entire roster. She's the greatest women's wrestler on the roster right now,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Well, it makes you think that if she doesn't show up at the Royal Rumble and win said Royal Rumble, then maybe we built her up too high too fast.
Yeah.
But
The
I
Royal Rumble
fully
would be a good spot for her to pop up, but to put her up, I mean, I don't know if she'd be ready to take the title off Becky.
I'm not sure. I think they've got the Royal Rumble spot earmarked for someone else that we may get to a little later. I think they're set up for that.
So one thing I will have to throw here before we move on, just because I've been following her for a little while, I have to give a huge shout out to Bianca Belair.
Ah,
She's been at the Performance Center in NXT for 3 or 4 years. I first came across her watching the combines that they do every now and then on the network, where they just show all of them in the background, in the gym working out, doing a very NFL NBA type combine of strength, agility, speed. And I'll tell you, Bianca Belair has won the women's performance center combine every year they've had it.
wow.
Like
Okay.
she's got 3 or 4 straight years running, and I think it's all that they've done it because it's more of a recent thing. But she blows people out of the water in
Yeah.
strength and speed. I couldn't catch exactly what her tagline was over the weekend that she just started to describe herself when because she's getting more ring time now, which is good.
Yeah.
Um, but she literally is the strongest, fastest, quickest,
Yeah.
whatever
They
accolades.
Morrow keeps calling her the EST of
That's
NXT.
what it. Yeah, I was trying to remember exactly
Yeah.
what they call her, and she is just a beast. And she came out all weekend and performed, looked good, took some big spots in the War Games
Yeah.
match, and then did some good stuff with Charlotte and some other folks. Big names in this Survivor Series match.
No, I'd have to agree she worked well, and she actually stood eye to eye with Charlotte. So she's pretty tall.
Yeah, she's definitely got a physical prowess that if the hair thing is kind of crazy, but like when she was just whipping with the hair, it works for her. So I
Yeah, it
would have been
worked.
remiss. I had it here. I had to give Bianca Belair a call out. She's a top star, or let me put it this: a rising star
Rising
that
star.
everybody should keep their eyes on. But moving on, following what was really a tear down the house opening match there with the women's Survivor Series, we had a triple threat of champions. We saw Shinsuke Nakamura, the current Intercontinental Champion, going up against AJ Styles, the current United States Champion, going up against Roderick Strong, the North American Champion, and the fourth member of the Undisputed Era. And I was really surprised at how this came out, but I want to start with your thoughts, Kyle.
I continue to be impressed by Roderick Strong. Way I look at him, he looks just so plain Jane, and there's just not much to look at.
Yep.
And it doesn't look great. The look is he just kind of looks like a goofy dude.
He's like Dean
But
Malenko in 2019.
that is a perfect example. Wow, wow. That is a perfect analogy of kind of the way he looks because it's exactly what he looks like. He's just a generic white guy.
Yep.
He's when you're going to create your wrestler in a WWE game, it's as if you just hit you just start. You're like, I just want to get into the game and play it. Like I don't
He's
care what he
default
looks
Jonesy of the
like.
wrestling world.
Is default Jonesy of the wrestling world. Exactly because he just doesn't. And I hope that doesn't hinder his career. That he just doesn't have like the look because the dude can work.
Oh yeah.
And going into this match, if you're telling me you've got Shinsuke, AJ Styles, and Roderick Strong in one match, you're like, okay, what is Roderick Strong doing in this match?
Right.
But the fact is, he performed and kind of half stole the match.
Oh yeah.
Blew me away.
He did a
blew me
great
away
job.
how good he looked.
Yeah, he did a great job. He stood toe to toe with a couple of the titans of the industry in Shinsuke and AJ, and you wouldn't have known that he was coming up from the quote unquote developmental roster.
Yeah.
He held his own. I love the different suplexes and backbreakers he does. But he's a guy really to the point of what we were just talking about is that when he first showed up in NXT a couple years ago, I I thought he was just white bread walking. You know,
Yeah.
he had not like people kind of knew who he was coming in, so the NXT crowds would pop, and you could tell the dude could wrestle, just like you
Yeah.
said. But just to totally agree with you, he had nothing, of an
Yeah.
it factor to be like,
The
man, what is interesting about this guy, and it's possible, that could hurt him on the main roster because he really needed the Undisputed Era
Yeah.
to really get over the top and where he's at now as far as the crowd, I think. So can he do it without the stable behind him once that time comes?
We'll see. We'll see. He may not have to because they've been together for a while, and it looks like they're going to keep them together for a while. I saw a lot of comparisons to the Four Horsemen over the weekend. A lot of people were saying the Undisputed Era are the modern version of the Four Horsemen. And if you think of the rebooted Four Horsemen, Dean Malenko, right there.
That's that's true. Dean Malenko was a reboot for Horseman. I don't know. There's been a lot of comparisons. I saw the HBK comparisons coming out to Adam Cole recently, and
Yeah.
he's been good, but like I think we're jumping a little bit ahead of our skates because he's been good on NXT. He was good last night. Uh, we got to get through like a full year of roster. Like Mania, Rumble, SummerSlam, the whole 9 yards. Do it on
Yeah,
the big stage before I'm
do it
giving
on
him
the big. Yeah.
HBK accolades. But Roderick Strong, you said he kind of stole the match. He literally stole this match
No, he
when he
did.
stole the pin and got the win over Shinsuke Nakamura after AJ Styles hit Shinsuke with the phenomenal forearm. And there was a lot of good spots in this match. It was real physical. I don't know if you caught the like Strong style Doomsday device that they did, where Shinsuke
Yeah.
kicked Strong off of AJ's
Off
shoulders.
shoulders. Yeah, I did see that. I did. That was pretty wild.
That was a beast
Um,
move.
Seeing those two work together. And I kind of saw with Strong winning, that's two old veterans tipping the cap to the young guy who can clearly go.
Yeah.
That's how I saw that one.
Well, and clearly Triple H took control of everything because NXT was pretty dominant here.
Seeing NXT win two out the gate shocked me. It is not what I expected at all.
Yeah, especially when they were like legitimately pushing the who's gonna win the most matches out of the three brands. They kind of just started strong with NXT and never looked back.
For sure. Well, and speaking of Starting strong with NXT, our next matchup was for the NXT Championship. We saw Pete Dunne win that triple threat the night before to earn his number one contendership as he went up against champion Adam Cole, who's coming off dying off the top of the cage.
He was resurrected back to life. Got his ribs taped up. You know that always gives you the extra energy for the next night. And then he
It does.
he came out.
The slight boost.
I mean, this match had some good story. It was obviously kind of put together at the last minute with the triple threat number one contender match on War Games. But so both guys came in like banged up from their hard fought matches the night before, and they used some of that throughout, which I thought was good. It was definitely a strong match, but ultimately, I'm so fascinated by Pete Dunne's joint manipulation stuff because it
And
makes my freaking skin crawl when he does it.
yeah,
Like for those who aren't familiar, joint manipulation. He's one of these guys that will like grab his opponents by the fingers and the wrists, and he'll like bend
yeah.
them in unnatural ways and
He does
break
the
their fingers.
wishbone.
Yeah, he wishbones them, and like they get all close up on the camera, and it's like it's one of those wrestling moves that you can feel it through the TV.
Yeah, it just makes you cringe and your joints start hurting a little bit. It is a little rough,
Because
but it's
everybody knows what that feels like.
everybody's pinched their fingers in a door or like had somebody do the pressure point on the top of your knuckle or something like that. So you know that it hurts. It's cool. It's different and it's a different style, and that's something that I think is welcomed in WWE right now. That not everyone is just cookie cutter, punch punch spear, punch punch spear, Superman punch spear, drive by kick. It's something different. Style is unique in a way.
Yeah, for sure. I thought they had some good spots in this match. Kind of going back to what I just alluded with the seeing the HBK comparison stuff. All I could think about was, okay, a guy like HBK, every single night that dude wrestled was match of the night. With a card like this, did Adam Cole have match of the night? And I don't personally think so. It was a good match.
Yeah, it was
Um,
good. I
but
don't know if it was match of the night. It built the momentum that we had going.
yeah,
Like every match so far seemed to build off the prior's match momentum, and like we're just keeping it going and tick 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 going higher up. But I was it match of the night? No, I don't think it was match of the
it was
night.
probably closer to just like finish of the night. I don't know what you thought about the finish with the where he countered Adam Cole countered Pete
Oh,
Dunne's bitter end finisher, and
yeah,
then he
into
turned
the
the
Panama
destroyer,
Sunrise.
the Panama
Yeah,
Sunrise. Yeah,
Panama Sunrise Destroyer. Yeah,
that was pretty
Canadian
impressive.
sunset flip depends on who's doing it.
But I thought that was a cool way to finish that with that counter move, and because it just looks so damaging, and then he got the pinfall.
No, that was cool. So credit there, maybe finish of the night, but not match of the night. It's tough to say Adam Cole's going to be HBK. Like that I just can't get on board with that. HBK has this when he walked into a room, your eyes are drawn to him and you're like, yeah, like Heartbreak Kid is here. Like he's awesome to look at. Charisma is maxed out to 10. I feel like Adam Cole's charisma is at like a 6.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, everything else is real high, but
He
his
still has
his
a
charisma.
Yeah, he still has a little bit I feel to work out. He's real close, and he can
Oh, he's right
compete
there.
with almost anybody. I do like Adam Cole, so I'm not trying to really
Yeah.
sound like I'm hating on him, but I do feel he has to come up a little bit before he's fully on the level, uh,
Yeah. To
of some of these other guys.
to
Even other
compete
guys on the
night in,
current
night out.
roster, to be honest.
Yeah, to compete night in, night out, he's got to step. There's a reason he's in the stable that he's in
Yep.
because kind of all four of those guys, like we said with Roderick Strong, they're all just missing something.
Yeah.
And you can't quite place your finger on what it is. But even Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, they're all missing something. And right now, Undisputed Era is making up for that, and that's giving them that something because Undisputed Era is pretty cool.
For
But
sure.
but if you take one out, you're like, they all kind of just look like white dudes.
For sure. 100%. Yep. Dean Malenko's.
Dean Malenko.
So from there, we went into a pretty exciting match that kind of came on quick as far as the build, but it didn't really seem to matter because there was a lot of hype. It was the Universal Championship match. Now that it's on SmackDown, we got a blue Universal title now, between the Fiend and Daniel Bryan.
I've said it in previous episodes. I think Daniel Bryan is just top notch. He's one of the best wrestlers out there. He's one of the best characters out there. He's just the best male wrestler in the game right now for me. So, short notice, small build. He still performed. It was really good. What bugs me about the Fiend matches is that I just want the Fiend to be an absolute monster. I want him to dominate everyone and no sell everything. I don't ever want to see him take damage.
I
I
love the
want to
no
see him
sell
just
with him.
run through everyone. It's what I want. So when you get these matches where like he does get beat up a little bit, I don't know why it irks me, but it irks me a little bit. Like he's got the red lights and he's got this whole aura about him. Why can't he just be destroying people?
Yeah, I mean they did bring him down a peg to, probably just build a 10 or 12 minute match, whatever it was with Daniel Bryan last night. But I do agree. I really still feel like they missed the mark by just having him come out and plow through everybody Brock Lesnar style. Like if Brock
Yeah.
got that treatment and was allowed to destroy John Cena and then every other big
Yeah.
big name that the WWE had, over the last couple of years, then why would a character like the Fiend not come out and just murk everybody? So I totally agree with you there. One thing I thought was kind of a highlight. It's easily overlooked, but was a highlight with these two guys is that this match came together so quickly, but because both Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt are so good on the mic, like those guys can up the intensity, cut promo on anything.
Yeah.
And Bray's character with the Firefly Funhouse and the creepiness, like it went from zero to a feud, and a good feud, like
Yeah.
in a heartbeat.
Instant in less than a week.
Yeah.
Less than a week. It was like they did one little cut on Miz TV the week prior, and then boom, y'all have a match at Survivor Series, and it's a banger.
Yep.
They do have a bit of a history there, though, when Daniel Bryan infiltrated the Wyatt family. So they played on that a little bit, on his past of infiltrating the Wyatt family and breaking them up from within. And then the new, maybe I missed it. I'm not sure where this Daniel Bryan is mentally unstable.
I caught that too, and I thought that was a little much. Maybe there was a couple minutes of an episode from the last couple weeks I missed where that got introduced, but that was like something that Miz was like hardcore pumping. Was like, "You got mental issues, bro."
You have mental issues, yeah. And it was really, I'm like, when did Daniel Bryan develop mental issues? I thought he was just trying to save the planet.
Right, right.
Uh,
We know
but
how Vince really feels about climate change now.
yeah, right. It says it's a mental instability if you believe in it. Um,
So I had
no,
a
but in the end, I was gonna say in the end, the Fiend picks up the win with the mandible claw.
I really liked how he did that too, because if you notice, he literally caught Daniel Bryan out of the air with the mandible claw, and Bray's got so much power, so he just like
Yeah,
it was
like
like
big
mandible
dude.
claw rock bottom almost, and choked him out and got the win. I thought it was a pretty good finish. I wanted to ask you because I know it's been a little bit of a controversial statement, but where do you stand on the red light during the matches?
I'm ready for it to go away.
Ready for it
I,
to go
I
away?
I'm ready for it to be gone. It was cool at Hell in a Cell. It seemed to make sense for Hell in a Cell and that story and what they were telling with Seth Rollins. But now that it's just a regular match with Daniel Bryan, it didn't make sense of why the red lights were there. I mean, I understand the supernatural aspect of Bray Wyatt's character, and I like the supernatural
Sure.
aspects of his character. But for me, the red lights are just, I'm kind of over it. Um, and I'm not sure now that they've done it and they've continued to, I'm not sure how they're going to get out of it.
Right. Yeah. I
Like,
don't know how they stop it. Like, does that just like end his power?
yeah, they exactly. Like, are they
Somebody
just,
shoot out the red lights, he just like dies.
yeah, one day. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be like when you overexpose a photograph in the dark room. You're like, oh, don't turn on the regular lights. I can't handle the regular lights. Oh, no. Like, no, what's going to happen here? So, do you like them?
I'm kind of indifferent at the moment. Like, it doesn't seem to bother me. Like, doesn't hurt my eyes or anything. It is different. I like it way more than like the House of Horrors ring that they did.
Oh, yeah, with
Back
the bugs.
with the
Yeah.
bugs and the flashes and things like that. Because of the fact that it kind of stays just like one color, one hue. I guess it hasn't been too terrible, but I've seen online where there are people that are starting to get a little worked up over whether or not they can keep doing this red light. And I think it'd be more interesting in person. Maybe more impactful, like
Maybe.
in the arena.
Yeah, it probably does. It probably gives that aura to the match and to the Fiend, but on the TV, it kind of looks hokey to me. I don't know, but we'll see how they work out of it. But once again, the Fiend picking up the victory there, retaining his title. Next up was the men's Survivor Series match. Once again, Team Raw led by Seth Rollins, Team SmackDown led by Roman Reigns, or was it led by King Corbin? That's up for debate. And then
The
Team
Corbin guy.
NXT.
Yeah, there was a lot of star power in this match. You had Rollins, you had Kevin Owens, you had Roman, Corbin, McIntyre, Ciampa, Strowman, Walter, Keith Lee. I mean, you can go on and on with the amount of star power that was in this match. The only thing that I really struggled with some of these big Survivor Series matches was that you could never really tell exactly who was legal at the
Yeah.
time. Like, there would be so much happening and maybe some breakdowns and things like that. But I thought that this was a good match, start to finish, pretty much like the women's matches.
No, it was. There's just so much talent, and we've talked about it in the past. Like, there's just so much talent on the men's WWE roster that it's surprising that they don't perform better consistently because top to bottom, like Drew McIntyre, Ricochet, Mustafa Ali, Shorty G, all
Shorty
those
G.
guys.
How did I forget
Shorty
about
G,
Shorty G?
right? Yeah, well, because his name's Shorty G. You look right over him. You don't even see him. But Chad Gable, I mean, collegiate wrestler, Olympic wrestler, and I say a cool spot in this match was Chad Gable, Shorty G, whatever you want to call him, getting to go one on one with Matt Riddle,
Yeah,
and I really enjoy it when two guys that are trained in the classic like Greco-Roman style that are, amateur wrestlers from like high school or collegiate days and in Chad Gable's case, Olympic wrestling, and they get in there and they do some really technical stuff
oh
and
yeah.
some slip outs. It's just super cool to me.
You get the like match shoot style that gets the guys that can do it really fast, and they get to spinning around each other
Yeah.
and reversing the holds, and they go and you get to see like literally what 10 or 15 holds or maneuvers in a short period of time because they're just so technically gifted. I'm totally with you. Not everybody
Yeah.
can do it, but when you got guys like that, it's definitely worth stopping and watching.
No, it is super cool. And there was a moment last night where they kept reversing each other on the ankle lock, and
Yeah, Shorty G had a great reversal to put Matt
yeah,
Riddle in the ankle lock, I thought.
it just slipped right through, and it was super cool. And two guys that, well, I think Matt Riddle is headed for big things.
He
I think if
pinned
they
Randy Orton
he did pin
in this
Randy Orton,
match. I could
he
not
did.
believe that that's who they let pin Randy Orton.
I mean, I think Vince likes Matt Riddle. I mean, I'm big on Matt Riddle. I like him. I like that style, that UFC MMA mixed with classic wrestling style. I'm all for it.
No,
I
not
think it's
just classic wrestling style. He's using all the classic wrestling moves. He's
yeah,
got the ankle lock. He's now using the spear and the jackhammer.
yeah. He's got the edge look to him, but then all the classic training. The only thing I'm not sure of is he doesn't wear boots,
Yeah, that only
and
lasts for so long.
yeah, he goes barefoot. I'm not sure how that's going to transition if he goes to main roster status.
I mean, Rusev did it
Um,
for a long while. Don't forget.
yeah, Rusev, yeah,
Rusev came out
yeah,
barefoot for a while, and then he had that ankle injury, and they made him put
oh
boots on.
Ruru, forgot about Ruru. That's true. No, that
Rusev
was pretty
Day.
cool. But Keith Lee,
Dude,
Keith
bask
Lee
in his
with a
freaking glory.
strong performance here as well.
Keith Lee is just bursted onto the scene. That guy is what, like 6'8", 300 and something pounds, and he's leapfrogging dudes. He's
Yeah,
doing springboards. He's doing crossbody drive. I don't know. I cannot stop watching him when he's on the screen right now because you just don't know what the dude's gonna do. He's like
yeah,
he's like Black Bam Bam Bigelow, you know. Uh,
When he does the second rope moonsault,
yeah, the
which is
moonsault.
super impressive for a guy, that I think they've said it over and over. He's 320 plus pounds.
He's an NFL lineman.
Oh, he's just super athletic. It's amazing. It's amazing. You touched on it earlier. There's a lot of super athletic big men in the WWE, either main roster or NXT right now. And it's true, like Braun Strowman, super athletic. Keith Lee, super athletic. Ivan,
Walter.
Walter. Yeah, Walter. I kind of wish Walter got a little more action in the ring, but I understand when there's
So did the crowd.
the 15 people in the match, you can't highlight everybody. Somebody's got to draw the short straw. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it was Walter, but I think Walter's going to hold on to that UK title for a bit.
Oh yeah, he's been impressive. He's now got his own stable with Imperium on NXT UK. He's not going anywhere. I actually thought that the crowd's reaction to Walter being eliminated from this match was the biggest pop of the entire night as far as like in match. Because I actually thought the crowd was a little dead last night. To be honest, I thought that the crowd could have been, especially during like the AJ Shinsuke match at the beginning. They were just kind of flat, but then Walter gets pinned and they're just losing their minds.
Yeah, yeah, they really did. They wanted more, and I don't know. I'll agree with you there. I expected more out of a Chicago crowd. Typically, you get a really good crowd out when it's in
For a
Chicago.
main four pay-per-view, a Survivor Series.
Yeah, maybe they were just burnt out on the weekend because they went pretty hard for War Games on Saturday night.
That's true.
But yeah, I expected more, but in the end, the final three, it was Seth Rollins, Keith Lee, and Roman Reigns. Keith Lee got the pin over Rollins, and then it was just Roman one-on-one with Keith Lee
Doing Roman things.
doing Roman things. And it was, I'll say this, I thought, because you knew Roman he was on the top for a while, and then they were like, okay, this isn't working. They responded to the crowd reaction to Roman, and they dropped him out of the spotlight. But you knew that he was going to return at some point. I really thought that the day he returned to top-notch status, the day I saw him win a big match at a big pay-per-view and doing his flex on the ropes, I wouldn't just hate it. And I was like, oh, it's been a while. I thought I'd be okay with it. I thought I would feel better about it. But nope. As soon as he got the win last night and stood up in victory, I was like, I still hate this guy.
It's constantly bad. I immediately wish that they would have swapped Rhea Ripley with Keith Lee in that match because then Rhea would have won and
That's
Roman
true.
would have lost. But I'm so tired of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns are like the couple that everybody knew in college that hated each other so like they couldn't date, but if they were in the same room, they were banging it out. Like,
Yeah.
like they couldn't not they gotta bump their fists and they gotta do their power bombs and like they gotta
Yeah.
freaking do shield shit and it's just so overplayed.
Oh, I'm done.
I'm so tired of it. Like, just let them go their separate ways. You know, Ambrose is gone. You did 7 retirements. Like the
Yeah.
Shield had more retirements than the Eagles did. You know what I mean? Like it's just I'm over it. Like if they are in the room, they have to shield up, but they can't be the Shield officially. You
Yeah, they
know,
can't be the Shield. They can't. Of course not. Of course not.
just make
No,
them a tag team.
I'm with you. I'm over it. I'm over it. And it's this. I mean, to WWE's credit on why they're doing it is the Shield was kind of the last great gigantic stable for them. I mean, I know New Day. New Day's been around for a while, and I love the New
New
Day.
Day's been around way longer than the Shield at this point, by the way, and with way
Well,
more
I mean,
accolades.
with way more accolades.
New Day
Do they?
greater than the Shield. The New Day is like 7-time world champs. I'm talking about as the stable, not like
As the stable.
individually. And I'm talking about as a stable. The
Oh,
Shield was only around for what, like 2 years, and then Seth went and backstabbed them all. And they had a couple of the titles, but the New Day's had the belts like 7, 8 times. They had the world title while being the New Day, not
that's
after they
true.
left there. So, New Day greater than the Shield all day long.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna agree with you because I'm gonna agree with you. I just figured I would give WWE some credit. I know that the Shield were popular. We know when they were at their
Yeah, the
height,
fans loved them.
the fans loved them. So that's something that the fans are always gonna want to see.
here's where I'm gonna draw the line here. If Seth Rollins will put blonde streaks back in his hair, then I'll accept them doing Shield shit.
He's got to go blonde though. He's
Commit
got to
to
go
it, bro.
commit to it.
All right, time to move on here. We've got 2 matches left on the Survivor Series pay-per-view. The next one on the card here was the WWE Championship between Brock Lesnar and Rey Mysterio Jr.
I'm really not sure who I hate more. Is it Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns? It's at this point I'm really, really not sure which person I dislike more. And that's probably Brock Lesnar because he's part-time. At least Roman puts in the work and is
Roman does
there night
show
and
up.
night. So like, and all stories say that Roman Reigns has a great work ethic and is awesome on the Make-A-Wishes, and Roman Reigns seems like a great dude.
Yeah.
So like I've got no issues with Roman Reigns the person, but for some reason I seem to have problems with Brock Lesnar the person.
I mean, he's
And
been questionable over the years, so you can. It's not like we know the guy, but if you just
yeah,
look at what you see in headlines and his business dealings, like it's not hard to kind of see the differences between the two.
yeah. And at this point with Brock Lesnar matches, they're all boring to me. They're just they've all
Yeah.
taken the same pattern. It's Hulk smash, Hulk get thrown into a ring post, Hulk dizzy, Hulk recover, come to his senses, Hulk smash again. Like that is, and I get the eat, sleep, rinse, repeat, whatever,
Yeah.
conquer, repeat, but come on.
I won't necessarily argue with you, but I do have to give Brock some due in the fact that if you look at what Brock's 2019 has been like compared to Brock's 2014 when he first took the title back from Cena through, last year, I mean, they have at least been attempting ever since really like the Goldberg moment. I feel like that they've
Yeah.
been attempting to tell stories with Brock at least more than they did originally. Because it used to be just he was going to show up at 4 pay-per-views, he was going to drop 19 German suplexes, and then he was going to leave. And now, like he has been showing up on more Raws. He did show up on some SmackDowns. Like they have been doing more to build things. And I actually thought that this match for Brock had one of the best story builds out of almost any of his matches for a while because him and Ray have history going back 15 years. You had the whole family aspect with Ray's son, and Brock got personal and like attacked the son. So you had some of that stuff on the line. The challenge with Brock is that everybody knows that Brock's always going to win.
Yeah.
Like there hasn't been a Brock match that wasn't telegraphed. Even when he dropped the belt at Mania, it was the first match he knew he was going to lose.
Yeah.
So that's where they struggle. But I thought all in all that they have been trying. How about that? They're trying a little more leading up to the match. Like he's gonna win regardless, but I thought the least we got a payoff moment too with Dominic coming out.
No, I can agree to that. They did try with he beat up Dominic, and then they integrated Cain Velasquez, who's Dominic's godfather. They integrated that well in the pipe and all that. So, and I was happy to see Dominic get ring time. I
Finally
thought
got ring time.
finally got ring time and dropped a 619. He's a tall guy to be doing 619s
He's way bigger than his
also.
dad.
Yeah, so I'm happy. The story. You're right. I can't argue on that. Story was there. Finally, story was there. So that's the quality. And so maybe it's to what your point that I'm just tired of. It seems like every Brock match goes the same way, win or lose. Like it's so telegraphed. So it's hard to get excited and hard to feel enthused about seeing Brock Lesnar show up with the belt or without the belt. Like it's just
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
I
like,
definitely don't get excited about him.
no,
For any credit that I will give, like I don't get excited. He's just there.
yeah,
And it's just until he retires and moves on. So it's just like something you have to deal with if you're going to watch WWE is that you're going to see Brock Lesnar show up and destroy something or somebody
yeah.
and then walk out with his title.
And then walk out. Maybe if he destroyed people in other ways, but like the F5 and the German suplexes
What,
just
like with
don't.
kindness?
I don't know, other moves. Like maybe I it's I'm not 100% sure. I don't know what I'm asking for, I guess, and that's also the problem.
What we need is a Brock Lesnar character shift. We
Yeah,
need him to just come out and scrap the beast, put
yeah,
on like a tutu, and go a completely different direction, and
yeah.
that would surprise the hell out of everybody.
Or he could channel his inner doink like Rey Mysterio did last night, and like
It is, yeah. The
try.
internet blew up on Rey Mysterio. That Joker outfit went the total wrong way.
Yeah. And we there were some good outfits last night, and there were some bad outfits last night, and I gotta say the Rey Mysterio doink outfit is on the bad side.
Yeah, it did not look right. It did not look right.
But Brock did end up winning there, so we'll move on to the main event. It was champion versus champion versus champion. Becky Lynch versus Bayley versus Shayna Baszler. Chris, was it just me, or did the crowd literally fall asleep during this match?
Oh, they were done. I mean, after an exciting pay per view, I thought that it proved to be a mistake to put this match at the end of the card
Yeah,
between the energy being expended between two nights of events, and honestly, as good as all of these wrestlers are, they're all little bit lower on the athletic side. They're not high flyers. They're not super high energy people. They're more mat wrestlers. So you knew you were going to get a little bit more of like a technical match or maybe a story
yeah.
match. And
Couple holds.
yeah, it was really flat. Like it was hard because, all the girls are great and they've been main eventing,
Yeah.
all these events and they deserve it 100%. But this was one where I really thought should have gone down the card a little bit, maybe right before the men's
Yeah,
Survivor Series match.
I think it. Oh, and then had Brock Lesnar
Finish it off like normal.
finish it off. Yeah,
Yeah.
or maybe even flip flop those two. I think it would have been fine because it happened similar to what happened at Mania, where the main event was so late in the card that the crowd just was tired,
Yeah.
and so they couldn't really get behind it. And we've
And it
talked
was a
about it
weak
in the
crowd
past.
already.
Yeah, it was. It was weak. They started chanting "boring" and
Yeah.
CM Punk during this match, like, and that's just
For a
disrespectful
Becky Lynch match.
for a Becky Lynch. Well, no, and that's just disrespectful for the three women in the ring balling out and doing what they do.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I
But
find
I'm
that
saying,
is
but
like,
Becky is by far the biggest star right now there, and she's completely on fire, and everything she's done is turned to gold. So that's my point. Is like
yeah,
everything else she's done has just been crazy pops, and then this was just dead flat.
yeah. No, I agree with it there, um, and I will say of the original Four Horsewomen, I think maybe Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair win on wrestling ability. So yeah, like you said, you got of the Four Horsewomen, Becky Lynch and Bayley are more of your ground mat technicians.
Yeah.
So you're not really going to catch them doing the moonsault off the top rope like the way Charlotte does, or a couple of the submissions or the flying knees that Sasha Bailey does or
Yep.
Sasha Banks does. So maybe that did affect it. And Shayna Baszler and the UFC submission
She's grounded
specialist.
pound. Yeah.
She's ground and pound submission specialist. It doesn't make for an exciting match. Um,
And to be honest, I was so distracted. I Bailey with the new haircut, like I get the whole attitude, but she literally just looked the whole night. She looked like a pissed off soccer mom, just looking at these young girls like, ugh, what you don't even know. You just think you know everything, little girl. And like she just had this
yeah,
smug. I don't know. Like it just there was. I never thought that about Bailey before, but in that moment last night, she looked like the old woman in the room,
right.
and it just was weird. It gave me this different vibe for her, and it's that bob haircut or whatever you call it, and it was a weird match all around. It should have been better, and it's not that they messed up by any means. I think they did a good job. There was a couple good spots when towards the end when Becky put Shayna through the table, the
Yeah,
announce table.
that was
Um,
definitely
but ultimately, really, probably the most exciting thing about it was the finish.
yeah with Baszler tapping Bailey for
I
the
could,
win.
I mean, I guess at that point, NXT's won everything tonight, in the match, in the card. But I was very surprised that Shayna Baszler won that match.
It was a little shocking. You didn't think. I mean, the saving grace would be that she didn't pin or tap Becky. So Becky still looks okay, and
Yeah,
Becky was still the one standing strong and standing tall at the end of the night after putting her through the table. But I mean, it was a little too late. Baszler had already won the match,
right.
uh, but it capped off an NXT night. You know,
It
we
was
didn't
an
expect
NXT night.
we didn't expect NXT at the end of the night or the beginning of the night. If you had told me NXT is going to win the most matches, I'd be like, oh, there's no way.
Me too. I did not think that that would be the case. I think that it really makes me wonder where do they go from here? You know, because I thought that it would play out a little bit more evenly, and then one of them would get a nod or something more dramatic would happen after building up the brand war so much. But I could not believe that not only did they go NXT with the win, but they dominated. Like,
Yeah.
how does the main roster come back from what they just did with the NXT folks?
Do they even have to? Or does Survivor Series operate in a bubble where it doesn't matter? Like, because really 11 months out of the year, you're supposed to hate each other. And then in November, you're supposed to care about the brand that you fight for. So Survivor Series could operate in this bubble where it's just not going to matter.
It's a good point, and for many years, it's kind of been how Survivor Series has worked. Is you've got the gimmick Survivor Series matches, and it's developed a little bit. And there's been title matches, of course, all throughout the years, but that's always been the main thing. So that is totally fair. I just thought that it was a little much, and really, my thought more so goes to moving forward. How long are they going to keep up with this? Three brands fighting each other, showing up. Like, we had another draft or another brand split. We've had like four brand splits this year, rosters on each side. Nobody can go anywhere. Okay, no, they
Yeah.
can go everywhere. And
Yeah.
like they just keep
Wild card rule, non-wild card rule.
yeah, like at this point it feels like it should just be like WWE Monday, WWE Wednesday, and WWE Friday, instead of having these different brands and different colors and the whole nine yards because they just keep intermixing them. So it's like, where do we go from here? Does things settle down and NXT is on top, but they just go back to Wednesdays and stick to their, arena, or do they just keep pumping Adam Cole onto SmackDown? That's what I'm curious. But what are your thoughts there to wrap up here?
I don't think we see anything until Royal Rumble. I don't think anyone shows up on any other brands until Royal Rumble. I thought there was an opera, and I say that because of one person in particular, and it was Kevin Owens. And the way Kevin Owens showed up on Saturday night at War Games for in the War Games matchup to represent Team NXT, he came in on Team Tomasa and
Daddy's
compete
home.
yeah, and competed. So I thought maybe if they had done some sort of twist where he abandons his team and helps Team NXT, but they didn't. And
Right.
so I thought maybe if you saw something like that, maybe we'd see a little more crossover moving forward. But honestly, we're moving towards TLC in December, and I think they're going to re-switch the focus back to Raw goes up against Raw, SmackDown goes up against SmackDown, and this was a nice little introduction to a few guys that we may see show up in the Rumble and maybe compete well in the Rumble because you always see a few NXT call-ups in the Rumble, at least for a highlight spot.
That's true.
And what you've done now is you've established these guys. So when Matt Riddle and Keith Lee and Walter and they show up in the Rumble, they're not just, oh, it's Walter from NXT, the UK champion. It's like, no, we're already familiar with Walter because we saw him at Survivor Series.
Well, it's a good point because it would really up the ante. Like if a Keith Lee came out into the Royal Rumble, especially any time later in the ordering, I mean, you'd have to immediately be like, dude, he could win this.
Yeah.
Based
Oh, yeah.
on what they have done over this past weekend and what I imagine they'll keep doing to build that character up with. Because he's got crazy pops right now. The fans are way
Oh,
behind Keith Lee right now.
oh, they're basking in his glory.
They are basking fully in his glory.
But it does, we will keep an eye on WWE moving forward. As I said, once again, we have the TLC Tables, Ladders, and Chairs pay-per-view coming in December. And we'll keep an eye on WWE and what they do with their storylines moving forward.
Thanks for listening to GeeK KetchUp. If you enjoyed today's chapter, please remember to subscribe to GeeK KetchUp on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Check out GeeK KetchUp on Facebook and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GeeK KetchUp Pod for updates on new episodes every 2 weeks. Stay saucy.